Nick, you guys did your annual NOD study at the Lead Research Center here at UNLV. And what did you guys come up with this year? What did you guys see in terms of NODs?
This is Las Vegas Real Estate Now with local real estate expert Harvey Blankfeld.
Now, I know you did this last year too. You said you're going to start doing this on a regular basis?
Yeah, we're just spinning up some of our research arms, and this is the thing we want to start tracking every year. How many notice of defaults are being filed across Clark County? And so this is our follow-up from last year's June report. And we're finding the numbers are going up. There's definitely been an increase year over year.
Yeah.
There's been about 28% more notice of defaults filed in our area year to date than there was this same time last year.
Right. And so when we look at that, and I see, and I kind of highlighted that part. It's at 28% higher year to date. So in March we had 235 just in March.
Yeah, that's the most since we started tracking in January of 2020. So very recent, of course.
Yeah.
But it is, with some of the other factors happening right now with, higher interest rates and those tourism numbers coming down a little bit. Maybe the initial signs of maybe something, but it's certainly something to be aware of. Yeah, I think that we have to look and see if it continues to be that trend. I think that's a good point. Keep an eye on the direction of something like this is important to us. In a healthy market, I would submit in a healthy market there are a certain number of NODs no matter what. Even and the reason is not necessarily overall economic conditions, but individual situations where somebody had a serious medical issue and they had to spend all their savings or whatever on something like that, or some other financial crisis hit a family, then they can't pay the mortgage, and it becomes a problem. But so this is up pretty significantly from last year. But the important thing that I wanted to mention about this, and let's go on to the other part. You actually developed a number, and I capped out. I made a note that your number caps out around 250 on any given month. And last month was 238. That's the biggest one you've seen, you said. Yeah, in March was the biggest we've seen so far. So again, it's increasing, but compared to maybe what we saw about a decade ago, not nearly at that level yet.
Right. Yeah, I think that's important. That's an important distinction. And then there's also the difference between notice of default. And it's interesting. Single-family residence, of course, makes up the predominant amount because that's the predominant amount of residential units we have, I think.
Yeah, and those are the people most likely to default on a loan anyway.
Do we know? I don't know if you know this number. How many residential homes do we have in Clark County? I don't know what that number would be.
Oh man, you're asking me at the wrong time because when I teach my urban regional class, I talk about the number of how many houses we have. It's I want to say 150.
Right.
That's single family residential.
Just single family, 150,000.
Yeah, I forget what the American Housing Survey says.
Yeah, I have to take a look at that because that's an important number. Just look at the ratio of what we're dealing with,
Yeah.
But as we look at the variety of things that are happening with that, I think it's important. And it does seem to be kind of localized in specific areas. You show a little heat map where it seems to be cropping up mostly.
Yeah, it's the same, and it's the same areas as last year. So we show two different figures here. This is what's happening year to date this year, and the next one is what happened in 2024, the same first 6 months.
Yeah, and it looks like
the same areas.
It really is a little lighter, not as red, but the same exact areas. It seems like focus more on the east and more towards the middle of the valley.
Yeah, the only real area that sort of escapes it is Henderson, but Henderson still has some. It's just not as intense as other spots.
Indeed, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that it is localized to a specific area. For certain, you would think it would just be spread out, but it's not. It seems to be clusters of it in certain areas of the valley.
Yeah, I bet if you overlaid things like local unemployment rate in these zip codes or per capita income, you probably see a lot of these same areas popping up.
It makes perfect sense. Yeah, because that's obviously a big factor as well. And when we look at studies like this, I think it's great that you guys are going to do this consistently because then we can follow this trend year over year. But you made a mention before. And I wanted to show this. You made mention of before about what happened before, and I think it's important to talk about this because while they are going up, it's nothing, guys. It's not like 2008. It just isn't. I just don't want everybody running out there screaming and the sky's falling because that's what I can see it happening, and I can see realtors going on TV say you better sell your house quick before let's not think like that, guys. And I found this. I just asked my AI to say, hey, what happened in 2008 in terms of notice of default? And here's what happened. In December of 2008 alone, Clark County saw 5,500 and change in a month. And that year, over 67,000 NODs were filed. Now,
How many homes in Clark County in 2008? That's probably like 80% of
What
like
It's grown a lot, but not as much as
Yeah.
you think since then, because
Yeah.
the
Like,
growth
really
happened
slowed
prior
down.
to that.
Yeah.
that's well over 50%, correct?
Of the
Of like all of the properties in Clark County in 2008. Like we're talking like
if my number was right, which my number could be wrong.
I think your number's a little light.
Yeah.
I do think your number's light. It's probably closer to 2 is my guess. But that's a huge percentage.
Yeah.
That's probably, you're probably right, Patrick. Maybe 30-40%.
close to, could be half of the homes.
Well,
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
And that's also counting, apartments and
Yes,
sure.
commercial businesses as well. But even then, my number's probably a little light. You don't hear economists saying too often we were wrong, but I was probably underestimated on that one.
Yeah, look, I think it's important. This is a great distinction just to let people know. Look, I think it's important that we keep track of this and we keep following it. And I love that the Lead Center is doing that going forward.